welcome to our closing production, performance of AWOL Productions' 10 Principles Storytelling Project. If you don't know about AWOL Productions, our mission is to share the values of communities by creating, collaborating, and telling stories through the performing arts. In this case, we're doing quite literally by true stories told by everyone on stage here. Just a few of the usual rules. If you have a device that does things electronically, please turn it off, or put it on vibrate if you like it like that. We are in the bedroom, and I cannot think of a more appropriate show about Burning Man at Fringe. So that being said, please silence, no photos, no videos. We want you to be here with us in this moment, and if you're capturing that moment, you've taken yourself out of it. So just, you paid for this show, we would like to give it to you. Give it to you all afternoon long. Yeah. One thing. I want to take your picture now. Yeah. In your programs, you might have noticed you have 5 of the 10 principles. What you might not have noticed is that some of you have 5 of them, and some of you have the other 5. So by your programs combined, we have 10 principles. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And the reason that's important is because in between each story, we're going to ask someone from the audience who feels so moved to get up and read a principle to me, to you, to everyone here. So let's just try that one time. Who has a principle that they would like to read right now? Raise your hand or just... Oh gosh. Okay, so we're gonna go.
I want to radically include you, JR.
Radical inclusion. Read the definition in the program.
No, I just want to radically include you.
I thank you. I appreciate it. Does someone have radical inclusion? Let's just keep going with that. Please, Chuck.
All right. Anyone may be part of a Burning Man. Anyone may be a part of Burning Man. We welcome and respect the stranger. No prerequisites exist for participation in our community.
Thank you very much. And so what will happen after that is story, 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 then applause, then they go, I come back on, I say, who wants to read another principle? So who wants to read another principle?
Let's include JR.
Brian.
Gifting.
Yes.
Burning Man is devoted to acts of gift giving. The value of a gift is unconditional. Gifting does not contemplate a return or an exchange for something of equal value.
And I'm so glad you read that, because one thing you should know is that you, by being here, are helping us support a first-timer's trip. And not just one. We've done so well that I've talked to the cast, and if there's a first-timer here, know that you're eligible to receive some of our box office to help you in your first time at Burning Man, whether that's your travel, whether that's costumes, whether it's an art project. See me after, but I want you to know that we are all volunteering and gifting our time and stories, so that we can share this experience and help someone else experience.
I want $3 back.
Dan, we're going to have to tell your story later. Speaking of which, I would like to tell you how I got gifted my client name. It actually starts by how I got my full name. My full name, my dad gifted to me. My full name is Nathaniel Russ Jr., which makes him Nathaniel Russ Sr. Yes, I'm a Nathaniel. Jr. is where the JR comes from. And I was very much his junior. He would do things that most fathers do with their sons, like go fishing. And I still found a way to make it my own. When we go fishing, we use bloodworms. And if you don't know about bloodworms, they are venomous. And they're not venomous in like, oh, don't touch them. They're venomous in an alien, like they have a maw that comes out and will attack you. So I would poke it, and I would chop that off, and then I could hook it, and I could fish with my dad. We would do things like watch football. Well, he would watch football. And as I got older, I would watch football less. And so I became less his son and more my own person. I did watch more Dallas. And by I watched Dallas, I meant I was in the room when my aunts watched Dallas. Especially my mom's sister. Now, if you don't know about Dallas, Dallas is one of the great prime-time soap operas of the 80s. Yeah. If you don't know about Dallas, there's a character called J.R. Ewing. If you don't know about Dallas, you would not know who shot JR. Actually, even if you do know Dallas, you probably don't know who shot JR. So instead of being asked, what's my full name or what's my middle name, because my dad didn't have a middle name, now I would get questions like, oh, who shot you? Or, oh, JR, like the bar on 17th Street. And I'd be like, yeah. But I really appreciate that name from my aunt. To my aunt, I was her firstborn. She was the baby of her family. She was a couple decades younger than my mom. My aunt and I were almost as close in age as my mom and her. I did have 2 younger cousins, but every time she would meet a new friend of mine, after seeing a show, she'd always say I was her firstborn. And so it was JR from that point forward until I got to Burning Man. And then I was still JR. I had heard about a playa name, the playa, another name for Burning Man, another name for Black Rock Desert. I had heard about a playa name, and I wondered, how do you get it? Does a playa named Stork come in the middle of the night and slip it under your pillow to wake up to? Does some Burning Man shaman come out of a whiteout and say, I dumped the rabbit, and disappear? How does he get it? So I was walking around the city. Day 1, still JR, which is fine. Day 2, still JR. Day 3, I'm walking around the city, and I pass a booth. Now there's a lot of booths at Burning Man. There's booths for hugging. There's booths for kissing. There are a lot of booths. And I'm there with a friend of mine who's also there for the first time, and this whole time he's been moaning and groaning about the dust, and the dust, and the dust, and the dusty food, and the dust. But he was still wearing that tutu from Tutu Tuesday, so I thought he might not hate it as much as he might have been vocalizing it. But there are 2 lines in the Playa Name Help booth. That is the booth we found ourselves at. I was like, oh yes! But of course part of me is like, wait, is this some kind of like Burning Man punk? Are they going to give me some jacked up name and then tell the rest of the Playa, like, I think that's what we call this guy. But I figured it was theirs to give to me, and I wanted it. I wanted it really bad. And so I got in this line, and behind the booth is this ent of a man. Yes, you get the Lord of the Rings reference. This ent of a man who is wearing this leopard uni with a mane of dark, curly blonde hair. This man who in the default world, in his regular world, in the world outside of Burning Man, by day he was an auctioneer. So he had a really high energy. He spent all that energy talking to a bunch of people to sell one thing to one of you for the most expensive price. But here he was, in the middle of a desert, willing to give anyone who approached him a name of their own for free. I thought that was pretty cool. And so I'm in line and I'm hearing and talking to the person in front of me, and she says she likes traveling, and she likes traveling seasonally. He's like, migratory, okay, do you like birds? And she's like, yeah, I like birds. And so he's flipping through his encyclopedia through different migratory birds, like swallows and other things. And they find her name, and it's my turn. And so I walk up and he says, let's start with your tattoos. That's always a good place to start. So I tell him about them, but I tell him not only do they all have a meaning to me, I also get them done on a date that's meaningful to them. So for the DC flag, I got on July 16th, which was the day of the Residency Act, the day that the District of Columbia officially became recognized as the District of Columbia. The Philippine flag I got on the date of the Philippine Independence Day from the Spanish. And so he's like, oh, so you're very much about time and place. And he starts looking at words for intersection or crossroads or things like that. He's like, yeah, I'm an intersection. My mom's Filipino, my dad's black. Yeah, I'm an intersection of them. And he's like, yeah, what else? He's like, I'm like, I was raised Catholic, but I went to an Episcopalian. Oh my gosh, like we talked about worlds colliding. And he was like, what else? And like, even with my art, I like reaching out and bringing art to people that might not know that art is already a part of their lives. And so it sinks, and he's tossing names back and forth. It's like crossroads, intersections, nexus. Yeah. I said,
JR loves the nexus.
I do. And he said, I think we have a name. And I said, I think we do. He said, I think your name is Nexus. I said, I think my name is Nexus. He said, calm down. He was like, let's just let it marinate. You know, he told me, he was like, take it out of the city. Take it for a test drive. See how it feels. If you don't like it, you can always come it back, return it for another model. But take it for a ride. Show your friends. Show strangers. And that's exactly what I did. When I went to my camp, I told my best friend from high school, I was like, I got my playa name. He said, oh yeah, what is it? I said Nexus, and all he did was nod. I would meet strangers all that afternoon, which would turn into evening, which would turn into morning, and then afternoon again. And every time I said, my name is Nexus, I didn't get a, oh, what's your full name, or what's your middle name, or who shot you? All I got was this, and a hi Nexus. And all of a sudden I became an intersection of us in that hug. It was like the first time I heard a word I'd heard so many times, but the first time I knew it for me. And every time I told someone else my name, I knew I wouldn't have to return it for another model. My dad gifted me with my full name. My aunt gifted me with a nickname. But Burning Man gifted me with my playa name. My playa name is Nexus.